Welcome to the 20s podcast. I'm Sagar, the host, and I'm with Aaron Balick today. He's the author of the book Psychodynamics of Social Network, and by profession, he's a psychotherapist. And currently lives in London. He's right now in Zurich, and I had a chance to talk to him and have a conversation about this, your life and your book and everything that you're doing. And I'm super grateful. Thank you for being here.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
So go ahead and talk about what you're doing currently and your book as well.
Well, I came to Zurich to talk to people about technology and depth psychotherapy, it's called.
Yeah.
Depth psychotherapy distinguishes itself from other kinds of psychology because it looks at psychological depth, feeling, emotion, fantasy. It comes from the old days of Freud and Jung psychoanalysis, really thinking deeply into what's going on. Yeah. And we find that a lot of today in psychology is turned into a very kind of medical model, procedural thing, trying to cure people of their ills. And while I think there's really good space for that, and one of the most profound things about being human is trying to make a meaning of our lives and deciding how we want to live our lives. And that's about depth. So I apply depth psychotherapy to things in culture and society like technology, media, society, culture, politics, etc.
Yeah. And what is the most interesting field, according to you, that you have applied this deep psychotherapy to?
The most interesting field?
That for you.
I mean, I get interested in lots of things. Yeah. I really like applying it to film. I really like to apply it to things that are going on in politics. Very interesting time politically. But because of the nature of technology today, social media technology, how people are engaging with the technological world, I'm really fascinated because it moves so quickly. People are hypnotized by it. People are consumed by it. Very, very interested, and so it's moving so quickly. So that's a real that in the nature of the self in general. So
I see a lot of passion here. I see that you're really enjoying what you're doing, and that's really important because a lot of people in their 20s right now, they're struggling mostly with finding meaningful work and finding a passion in life. And if you had to say from scale 1 to 10, how are you living the life that you want to live?
That I want to live now, or that I wanted to live when I was in my 20s?
Right now, yeah. Present moment matters the most, so that's
pretty high. Yeah. I think kind of like 8 or 9. I mean, I have things aren't perfect, but I'm pretty happy with my home life, my personal life, my working life. Yeah. It's I don't like the climate where I live. I live in the middle of a huge city. There are some things that I find difficult, but I think I'm pretty fortunate actually. Pretty high up on the scale.
So now let's go back and talk about how did you spend your 20s, or better question, how did you used to feel in your 20s, and if this was the scale where you're living the passionate life that you wanted to live, what was back then, if you can remember?
I mean, I really enjoyed my 20s a lot. I think I had a lot of anxiety when I think about it, but I think I also enjoyed it quite a lot. I was a really terrible hypochondriac. I thought I had diseases all the time, so I used to really worry about stuff. But also, I grew up in America. I went abroad for university. I finished that, and I traveled around Europe for ages. I didn't start training to be a psychotherapist until I was 25. And I lived in lots of different countries. I was really seeking lots of things. I had,
Let me interrupt you.
Okay.
Travel.
Yeah.
Right? We all love to travel, and especially us, our generation. We are free. We are not married. No kids. Nothing. No responsibilities, and we are just being independent now. We have our own salary and money, and a lot of people want to travel. How did you ended up in Europe from US initially?
I'll tell you, it was a really funny thing, and I'll never forget this choice I made. Yeah, but I was in a relationship, and I wanted to do this film program in New York City.
Yeah.
And the guy that I was in a relationship with kind of said, "I think you should. I think you should stay with me and not go to New York City."
Yeah.
This is the first major relationship that I broke up within to go do my own thing, which is really hard because it was a very, was really in love and all this kind of stuff, and it was the first sort of major heartbreak. And then I go to New York to do this thing.
Yeah, first heartbreak.
First, tears and everything. And I find myself in this amazing city. I find myself surrounded for the first time. And, I grew up in a smallish town in America where I didn't have a lot of exposure to people from far away. And, 3/4 of the course I was doing there were foreigners. Lots of them were European. One of them was an American guy who just come back from doing a year abroad in Great Britain.
Yeah.
In 5 weeks of this thing, I went and made arrangements to make sure I was going to be in Europe my final year of university. I met people who were so different from what I'd been used to, and I just wanted more of it. So I was like, I'm going there, so I just made arrangements. So sometimes so I'm really grateful for the really difficult decision I made back then, because there was something so strong in me that was saying, go to New York.
Yeah.
And I could have just ignored that to stay in my relationship, and I'm really...
What was that? Was it an instinct? Was it a feeling? Was it something that somebody told you to do? What exactly was it?
It was desire.
Yeah.
It was like desire, and I felt like if I give this up, I'm going to resent the person I'm in a relationship with, too. It's like, I'm giving this great thing up for you, which, people can make that choice, but I couldn't make that choice.
Yeah.
I think I just would have hated him for this was my chance.
Which, in particular, I wouldn't think it was something to do with the person itself, but it was a lot to do with your own choice.
Yeah, I wasn't up for settling down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to, I would have just got a job in that town, and, we'd spent the summer together. I'm sure it would have been great, and my life would have gone in another direction, which may have been equally good. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, but I was introduced to a social network, a couple of people that I'm still involved with. I knew I wanted to get the hell out of town the first chance I got, so I finished up my year, moved to England, and then...
How old were you back then?
I was 19 or 20 when I was in New York, and then I left at 21.
And how did you move to England from New York?
Yeah, well, that was hard because I didn't have a visa. I had a lot of struggle. I stayed there as a student, and then I moved to France for a little while, and then I couldn't work anywhere in the European Union because I was an American. So I moved to Poland, and I worked there because at that time it was not in the European Union.
A lot of struggle around visa.
Yeah, but also a lot of opportunity. Who gets to live in Poland shortly after communism ends, and talks to all these sort of interesting people who are going through this massive change. Yeah. And then, kind of by accident, I wanted my visa, so I became a master's student back in London. I wanted to do anything that was kind of interesting. I didn't have an aim for a career or anything like that. And
something interesting. That is important. I would. What is interesting? Like, what is that feeling? How do you know if something is interesting or not?
Well, for me, my master's degree was a reflection of what I was already interested in.
Yeah.
So I think I don't remember if I said it, but I've always been like a seeker. I've always kept diaries. I've always been very curious about what my experiences is, and writing them down.
Yeah.
And so I went to study philosophy because that would kind of formalize my query. Yeah. Like, what's it all about? Okay, well, I'll do philosophy, and then that'll tell me what it's all about.
Yeah. What is life? Where it comes from? Yeah.
So it's like I need a visa.
Why did you want to do it in Europe and not go back home and do it over there?
I just loved being in Europe.
There you go.
Yeah. I just loved being on a continent where there were different languages and different cultures everywhere. I was also getting into a new relationship at that stage, which is the one I'm in now.
Okay.
By the time I went to university, we were actually properly in that relationship. So part of it was about that as well. So
one pattern that I notice here is you always follow your instincts and your desires. Even though you had to get out of a relationship at some point, and and you had to face a lot of visa situations and difficulties, and I would also guess you had trouble with money, right? How do you manage your money, and how was the process with your money?
Yeah, well, I was a little bit lucky with money. I was unlucky with family because my father had died when I was 15.
Okay.
But he left me money, and he left me money for my education. So
Yeah.
I was in a very admittedly privileged position to make some choices that a lot of other people wouldn't have been able to make.
Yeah.
I mean, I was working the whole time. I was working as an English teacher in Poland, and I didn't work when I was in France, but working again when I came back to England. But I could pay for my master's degree. I knew that sort of my basics were kind of covered.
Yeah, but you covered your, you travel and you have fun and you gotta get some extra income on the side, right?
Yeah.
And what did you do for that?
Well, I was an English teacher in both in London and in Poland, and I worked in a major bookshop on Oxford Street in London. I was working in that bookshop when I started doing my psychotherapy training.
I see. And you found those jobs because there's no qualification for those kind of jobs, is there?
I did have to train to be an English teacher, but that was like a 5-week sort of intensive course. Yeah.
But you found them.
But I found them.
Yeah.
And I love that too. And actually I think that's a lot about what I do now also.
Yeah.
Because to be an English teacher for foreigners, you have to you can't just be didactic. You can't just say this is how the grammar works. You know, you're always setting up these exercises, you're always creating these games. So when I ended up teaching and ended up doing the kind of talking I do now, I mean, you've seen me talk. I don't tend to just read a paper at people.
No, I love your talk. You have a sense of humor as well. At the same time, it's natural and really good.
Yeah, and I think I learned that from having to kind of perform as a teacher, as an English teacher. You have to get people engaged and talking to each other, or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So looking back, you can see how all these pieces kind of start to fit together. You know?
Really unconventional 20s, huh?
From where I come from, very, very unconventional.
Yeah.
What
most people fear is that they initially they look for a steady job, at least in our culture now. Now a lot of people want remote jobs and they want to travel the world and everything. And but a lot of people are somehow stuck in their corporate jobs and safety net where they don't want to. They're already so comfortable that they don't want to quit.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you changed your careers, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people also feel that, okay, I studied so much for this thing, now I gotta use it at least for a few years. And that becomes an excuse of not following what they really desire. Mm-hmm. Especially in India, where I come from. A lot of people become just engineers or doctors and they never... And while they're studying their stuff in college, when they're 19, 20, that's when they realize this is not interesting. This is not interesting at all, and they either go for an MBA or they go for higher education, which is almost similar thing that if you don't like anything, just go for an MBA, get a business job. It's kind of. But I like that you always followed what you were interested in, which is philosophy and then around psychotherapy. And did you have any fears around changing your careers?
I did have some fears about it. It did feel risky, but you provoked a thought in my mind about being in your 20s and about seeking, because I think the 20s are often about moving from social and parental expectations within you to finding your own way, because they can feel like it can, particularly in your younger 20s, but people develop at all different rates. It can go into your 40s. That's why sometimes people have midlife crises, because they didn't do it in their 20s.
Exactly. That's my point. 20 is really important to take risks and find your way, and maybe because later on in your 30s and 40s you might have a family, you might have a life, and you need a steady flow of income for your family and supporting your kids to study, and it becomes a lot more difficult when you have a midlife crisis and you can no longer handle stuff that is not interesting, and
you can get too comfortable as well. You might live in a comfortable surroundings, with comfortable things, and it's like the risk of loss gets much higher. If this doesn't work out, then everything's going to have to get a lot smaller. I'm going to have to pull everything back. you know. But I think psychologically, it's much more important to give yourself time. I mean, people feel like they have to get on some sort of track.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was a little bit lucky. I had a little bit of wiggle room to find out what that track was. But I think people can make themselves wiggle room if they're creative about it.
Yeah.
You know, I had an epiphany. I went and did my master's degree, and I didn't. It was interesting, but I didn't want to become an academic. I did in the end, but at the time I didn't want to become one. And I went into a cafe, and I had this big fat book on Marx. And this guy in the cafe was reading a big fat book. And I said, "Oh, what are you reading?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm doing a psychotherapy training. This has to do with that." And I was like, "I'd much rather be reading that than Marx," because I just read Freud before, you know. And I thought, "Oh my gosh, I love Freud. You're doing a therapy. Why didn't why didn't I think about that? Like that's what I want to do." And it happened like so suddenly. It's like, okay.
Did you finish your philosophy major?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I finished that up, and I ended up writing my dissertation on similar themes that I was going to cover. It was actually really good that I did. Philosophy is really helpful.
It is. It's attached to it. Psychotherapy and philosophy is kind of they share similar aspects.
They do.
For sure.
Yeah.
So this is your 20s. Let's at the age of 30, what position you are in?
The psychotherapy training was 5 years long.
Yeah.
Started at 25.
Okay.
And I remember in my interview, the woman said, "You realize you're not going to really finish this until you're 30. You know, how do you feel about that? It seemed like forever away."
Huge investment, huh?
Huge investment. Yeah.
Just a sec. Were you confident about it when you made it?
Confident that I was going to be a psychotherapist?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I pretty much finished things that I start, so which is why I finished the master's degree. Like I knew I would work really hard at it. I worked really hard at my master's degree, and I knew that I would just really go for it.
Yeah.
So I did have confidence in my capacity.
And where did that come from?
My internalized father, probably. It was kind of like my superego that just, you know, my father was very much all about education and, you know, you don't let yourself down and that kind of thing. Yeah. Which is it's kind of ironic.
I meant you were confident about whatever you started.
Yeah.
And that tells me that you were highly interested.
Yes, I was passionate.
Already, you were passionate in whatever you started.
Yeah.
You were not just going for psychotherapy because, this might be interesting, let's see how it goes. So I think
by then I was pretty convinced. Yeah. But I had no idea what I was getting into, mind you. I thought it was going to be I thought it would be like a surgeon. Yeah, like a surgeon who doesn't really necessarily want to save people, but he's really interested in cutting people open and seeing how the heart works, you know? It did not come from a particularly altruistic place. It came from me being fascinated about how people worked, and I wanted to understand that better, and I wanted to do that. But the training is very, you have to do your own psychotherapy, you do all this experiential work, all this kind of complex relational stuff I was telling you about before. You discover yourself, you discover that you're not this cold-hearted surgeon, that you're actually having real relationships with people every day. You're very engaged with how they're doing and if they're improving. You worry about them. You worry about whether you're doing it right. You know,
you cannot just knock people out and take care of them.
Yeah, you can't just pull out a kidney and sew them up and send them on to the nurses to look after. You know, it's like you see them until they go, and then sometimes you see them for years and years, and sometimes after you've seen them, you hear from them years later. Yeah. So it's.
And how does that make you feel when you see somebody growing and you can see that you really help them?
Yeah, I mean it's a very gratifying experience. You know, when it's really happening, and particularly people who really work at it. You know, because people bring this is where psychotherapy is not Facebook, because they're not bringing you the rosy stuff. They're bringing you the stuff that they're not putting on Facebook. Yeah. With a great deal of
crazy
courage.
Stuff and a lot of courage is needed.
A lot of courage. I'm going to go to the place with you that I can hardly go to in my own mind. You know?
Yeah. What are so I had psychotherapy, and I'm still in connection with my psychotherapist. Sometimes now I take, in 2 months I take one of the sessions. There's a lot of taboo around whether somebody should go to psychotherapy or not, or and also that comes from somehow a place where am I really that crazy? And when I really understood psychotherapy, I'm like, there is no such thing as am I really crazy or not. It's just perhaps everybody really needs it, but nobody realizes it. So, what do you think? What would you suggest, especially people in our 20s when we are struggling with a lot of internal acceptance and loathing, right? We are struggling with self-love and self-acceptance, which gradually becomes much easier when you get older. Somehow you understand and you accept yourself already.
Yeah.
But in the 20s, it's much difficult, and you have your own dreams, and a lot of social media is now playing a role of, a lot of happy people are out there. And how would you say psychotherapy could help a person?
So I was really lucky because when I was 25 and I was training to be a psychotherapist, I had to have my own therapy. So when I did that, I thought, I'm doing this because this is going to be my job.
There we go, but it was help.
Well, I mean, it was great. It was great. And you don't have to do it for your job to experience it. And you imagine, 1 hour a week that is devoted entirely to what's going on inside your own head and your heart. With the real, you got to find the right therapist, but someone who is very, very interested and 100% concerned about your well-being and enabling you to discover your best self. Not buying the bullshit that's going online.
Self-help.
Yeah, I mean, some self-help isn't so bad, but sort of not trying to make it better all the time, not trying to change your mind about stuff, not trying to
make it better. That's important. Especially in our 20s, we try to, whatever we see that is wrong, and we put it mostly on the outside world and also in ourselves in the way that, okay, I don't feel attractive, now I'm going to go ahead and build a great body. But behind not feeling attractive, there could be a lot of internal issues which could be solved in a lot easier in a long-term way rather than just bettering yourself, right?
Yeah, I mean, bettering yourself, it's a great thing, but it's also this kind of ego thing. I will be happy when I have this much money, or I'll be happy when I'm doing this kind of work, or I'll be happy when... It's really about, I know it's kind of cliche now, but it really is about now. It really is about, and again, cliche, self-helpy sounding, it really is about really fundamentally and compassionately accepting yourself for who you are, where you are in a given moment. And we're so full of ideas that we've absorbed from culture and from family and from films, and to really sit down and sift through all those different voices telling you what you are and what you aren't and what you should be, and kind of like, let's get some clarity here. Let's get some compassion
and here. Also, parents and your friends, they play a huge role, especially right now, and they only give suggestions. They cannot pull out information for yourself from your heart and what do you really want. Mostly parents and your friends, they will give suggestions based on also society. So basically you're stuck in the same structure as you're already stuck. And that structure itself is creating problems for you, and you're going back to that structure, which is
like
family and friends. Something like that.
I mean, I think that's true, and I think psychotherapists aren't necessarily outside the matrix in that sense.
For sure,
But they are trained to, as much as possible, try not to be sucked into those expectations. So it's really sitting with someone who is actively, they're not just sitting and listening and saying, they're actively...
You should do this.
They
never say that.
You should, I think not that, very rarely they might say it, very rarely, but really trying to identify, okay, what is going on in this person here? What do they need? It might be very contrary to what they think they need, or what they think they ought to do, or what their parents think they ought to do. So let's find out what they want, and then in some ways it's very simple, and then they just get to make a better choice. So you can still choose. If your parents wanted you to be a lawyer and you're 3 years through law school, and then you realize actually you want to be an artist, you can still choose to be a lawyer, but you're basing that decision on a whole lot more information about what the consequences are. Usually the more information you get from here, you might make a hard choice.
Powerful.
The unexpected or the unconventional choice. Or you might make the conventional choice for good reason.
being mindful and being aware, you could make the conventional choice, but you would know that it's right for you.
Yeah, this is the choice I'm going to make for now.
Yeah.
And this is kind of my plan. I'll see where I go.
Do you have young clients about my age?
Pretty much anywhere between 16 and 60.
Yeah.
Really.
What are their biggest 3 issues?
Biggest 3 issues. I'm not sure there are a whole bunch different for people in their 20s than people not in their 20s.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah. So managing relationships.
Yeah.
Who am I and what do I want?
Yeah.
And
what do I want?
Yeah. And so this is the one that's different. So 20-year-olds are discovering their patterns.
Yeah.
Whereas people my age and older are really in their patterns.
Already.
Yeah.
They're just accepting most of it.
Well, maybe not where they're learning that they're doing stuff that's not so acceptable. So it's like you've done it for years in a sense. But then it's kind of like it's not working. It might be an old job or it might be how you are in a relationship.
Yeah.
It's like, I've done this again, or this is happening again. And they come and they say, what's going on? With 20-year-olds, 20s, you don't get that as much because you haven't had the patterns long enough to know.
You're kind of blank slate in a sense.
In some ways, those patterns are developing because you're having your first major relationships.
Yeah.
So it's not like you've had 3 relationships go the same way.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a big difference, and that's about learning to really hear yourself.
Yeah.
In a sense, so I mean everybody's going to make a pattern of some sort, but in a sense that you can make some better choices so you don't fall into some sort of pattern response.
And also you, in your 20s to do psychotherapy is much easier and getting towards a better direction than later on in life because you already made those choices and decisions and you're living with them.
Yes.
For years maybe, it could be your marriage already.
Well, not a lot of people know that your brain is still developing until your early to mid-20s, the executive functioning part of your brain. Which is why people, not entirely, but why teenagers and young 20s tend to be more impulsive than adults, because that executive function that helps you make those decisions isn't quite on board yet. So if you can get in there while that's still developing and use that executive function not just to respond to what my friends want me to do, what my parents want me to do, and all these conflicts, but actually look inside and say, okay, gosh, let's back off and let's just not respond to everything all the time, but take something a little bit slow, let's think this through. And to listen to a therapist who might be your parents' age, but isn't your parent and has no investment in you being anything like your parents do. They don't care whether you go to graduate school or go to law school or become a mechanic or become a...
So what do they care about?
Getting down to what you need to be doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of somehow a person who is a stranger and who you are paying to spend your time with might help you much more. And first thing, because a psychotherapist has no expectation from you, right? And you might, on the other hand, your parents or your friends might have an expectation from you, even though hidden. So in that sense, psychotherapists, you could be really honest about yourself and they would let you be honest and they would appreciate if you make your life choices with honesty and authenticity.
Yes.
Rather than your family or your friends who might want to who might want a decision coming from you, which could be their own hidden desire for you. Yes. That's
it's like a free space to really kind of decide. But there's this extra thing too, which not all therapists do that, but it's a very interesting thing. That your therapist might notice that you respond to them in a particular kind of a way. So that it might be like, say we're in therapy together, and I might say something like, it seems like every week you come here and you want me to be proud of the stuff that you're doing. Now maybe I am or maybe I'm not.
Yeah, it's about what you need. What do I need to give you as being a therapist? What do I need to give you in this moment?
Yes.
To
for me to feel good about you,
Yeah.
and then I might say, because that might be what we would call like a transference to your father. You know, you kind of think of me like your father, and that you want to show up good in my eyes. And I might say, you know, I'm curious about that because, you know, what's good? Are you here to tell me what you think is going to make me happy, or are you here to discover what's going on for you?
Yeah.
And then you learn this other level, like, oh my gosh, I'm doing that again. That's the pattern.
Then you're more likely to realize it in that.
It loosens it up. It's like, okay, do you know what? I'm not going to make you into my father or my mother or my whoever culture.
So, who is the person who could benefit from psychotherapy?
I mean, you know, I'm biased, obviously, but
me too.
Yeah,
But I want the answer coming from you.
Yeah, I think everybody should try it.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should. I think everybody should shop around. I think it's going to sound a bit crazy, but it is one of the most important relationships that you will have. Really, really trust this person. Really tell this person things that you might not tell anybody else. So you phone them up.
With you.
Yeah.
My first-hand experience. So where could people find more about psychotherapy?
Mm-hmm.
And is there a way they can get a test of it? Is there some kind of platform, or are there some videos or content out there which they can really test on themselves?
I mean, there's lots of things that you can test on yourself, but the difference in psychotherapy is having that other mind. So you really need that experience.
So I think what would help a person to know more about psychotherapy?
So it depends where you are in the world, who's listening to this. So wherever you are, you know, make sure that whoever you're talking to is qualified in some kind of way, like different registering bodies and that sort of thing. Call them up, talk to them on the phone. You will probably have to pay. Some will give you a free session. You'll probably have to pay for a session, but it's worth it to get in there. It's very fair. They should answer your questions clearly and honestly. What kind of training do you have? What do you believe about this? What might I be able to expect? I mean, you know, you have a right to check them out if they're completely like throwing questions back at you and you know, making it a psychoanalysis straight away. I'd be very wary. You know, have your questions answered, see how you feel. And then maybe see 2 or 3 people that way, and then go back to the one that you feel positive.
There we go. Do it. It's helpful. It's awesome. It's amazing. And later on in your life, you will be so grateful for meeting a therapist in your 20s, rather than later on when you have a lot of problems and you can no longer handle them. So that brings me to the next question. You made a lot of unconventional choices, and you also went through psychotherapy in your 20s. Fast forward to now. How do you feel about them, all of them?
About my 20s?
Yeah.
I can't think of anything I have any major regrets about in my 20s. If I could advise myself now, like if I could go back and talk to myself in my 20s, I would really just tell myself to chill out and not worry so much, because I know I worried a lot about stuff. It sounded like I was like flying through it, but actually when I really remember stuff.
What were your worries or fears?
I just think I had a lot of kind of existential angst, like not quite sure what things were all about, whether things would be okay, you know. I think I probably did, you know, that was unconventional, but I'm sure there was a lot of what am I doing with my life, you know, where am I going to land, you know, all that kind of stuff. And again, I think I told you, I can't remember if it was privately or on the thing, but I had a lot of hypochondria. I was always worried about getting ill. Partly that had to do with the fact that my father died when I was young and he was very ill. But I think more importantly, I didn't understand what I was worried about, so I found things to worry about that made sense to me. I have this weird feeling here, or I have this ache here, so maybe it's something terrible. And actually it was my psychotherapy being in psychotherapy that taught me. It was almost instantaneous. It was like, you're not ill, you know you're not ill, you're worrying about your body because you don't know what you're worried about, so let's find out what you're worried about and forget with all this cancer stuff.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah, it was like, okay, do you know what? I'm off the hook now. I don't have to neurotically worry about my health all the time.
Yeah.
It was really huge for me. I mean, it just took anxiety. People pay a lot for feeling
anxiety. Yeah, no, for sure. So there are some kind of worries and fears which are just anxiety, and there are just fears. And there are some kind of other worries which you should really be worried about. For example, am I going in the right direction or not? Am I feeling happy in the way I am right now? Not in the way I am right now, but in the direction that I'm going right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think...
I worry about those things in the sense that, let's say for a job or something, a career that I want to pursue, am I really heading in a direction which really interests me or not? That's like a worry of a lot of people in their 20s. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I don't think that worry enhances the situation at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get it. I mean, I have worries too. I have worries all the time, of course. But I think if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
If you're taking a risk, it's a risk because you don't know the consequence.
Yeah.
So I think it's very ideal, but I think it's much better positioned to acknowledge that you have concerns and that you don't know and that feels scary.
Yeah.
But to worry and to cogitate and rehash and forecast and compare.
That doesn't help.
No.
So what helps?
So here's a big secret, Anxiety tends to be fear of a feeling that you're not having. Okay? So we think it's about something that's going to happen in the future or something you did in the past. But if you're feeling anxious about something, so can I give you an example?
Yeah.
Like, let's take the example of the person who thought that they needed to be a lawyer, but actually they wanted to be an artist. But they're in law school and they've already spent $50,000 and they start getting anxious because they know this is wrong for them. And they can't bear the idea of the consequences of coming out of that track and doing something different where they're going to be lost and risky and nobody's going to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
People who get divorced have this a lot. I know this relationship isn't working. I know I need to get out, but I'm so full of anxiety.
They kind of avoid it.
They think they're avoiding it, but they experience anxiety because every time
they may necessarily not be able to connect that it's happening because I'm in the law school and I want to be an artist, or because I'm in a wrong relationship.
Because they're not listening to their feelings. So rather than the feeling that says you are unhappy doing this, it is not working. You don't hear that, you just feel anxious. What's happening? So if you, and again, it really helps to do this with a therapist to do it on your own.
Yeah,
you say, okay, I'm feeling anxiety now. What's going on?
Yeah.
And then it's like, you don't want to finish law school.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay,
powerful.
If I'm really honest with myself that I don't want to finish law school, then what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And then you get to choose. Well, do you know what? I'm going to finish it anyway because then I'll have my law degree and then I'll have something to fall back on. Or you say, do you know what? It's unbearable to me. I can't do it anymore. Or do you know what? I'm going to sit down and have a talk with my parents about this, or have a talk with a mentor and tell them what I'm going through and get some clarity about my feelings.
Yeah.
So fear is about something that's going to happen. Worry is about something that might happen. Anxiety is about what you might be feeling that you don't want to know that you're feeling. It's a really great clue.
Anxiety is about the feeling that you...
The fear that you're having a feeling.
Yeah.
The fear of your feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah?
The feeling that you don't want to have.
Yes.
Really powerful.
Yeah.
Really powerful. So here's, I think, what most people miss. They can either make a courageous choice of changing their life and making an unconventional decision, or fear every day, little by little, with anxiety.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want it to sound like, therefore you must make an unconventional decision. Yeah. What I want to say is there's a whole lot of data that you can draw from. You can draw from what other people are doing, what other people are advising you to do, your chances of making money or being secure, or what you think is right.
Yeah.
They're all valid points of data,
Yeah.
but the way you feel is a point of data too. It's just a different kind of data.
Yeah.
So
that is something you can't change.
No, you're going to feel how you're going to feel about it. Yeah. If you jump into cold water, you're going to feel cold about it. And then you can decide, okay, I'm going to swim and warm up, or I'm going to get out of the water, or I'm going to sit here being cold. Yeah. So all I'm saying is, if you become aware of your feeling, then you have more data. Yeah, so it's like, I don't like this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Then you do it anyway based on not knowing that you don't like it.
What is important in that situation?
To be honest with yourself about that other source of data, which is about how you feel about a given situation.
Yeah.
Which is difficult. It doesn't mean there's an easy answer, because it might be that all the cognitive answers say go ahead and your feelings say don't.
Yeah.
Some people will tell you always go with the gut.
Yeah.
I'm not quite so black and white about it. I think sometimes you really have to sit with it for a long time and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but it's important to listen to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The feeling will always try and make itself known to you. And the more you push it away, the more you will feel anxiety and fear, or you will go the defensive way. You will become obsessive about something, or you will start drinking or smoking more, or you will have an eating disorder, or
distractions.
Yeah.
That's where I think a lot of addictions come from, because you wanna trying to go away from your feelings, and you wanna feel happy, right? That's the basic instinct. Everybody wants to feel happy, but in your natural state, with a lot of anxieties and the decisions that you're making, you know that you're not happy. Subconsciously, you know that you're feeling bad, but your conscious mind that goes towards drugs and addictions, and it could be sex, it could be cigarettes, it could be anything. But would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I would also add, what pressure to have to be happy. We are ambivalent creatures. Sometimes we use stuff that this kind of feels good, but it doesn't tick all the boxes.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound pessimistic, but you're not going to be, there aren't ideal situations where all the boxes are ticked. So you're in a much better situation to accept yourself when you are. Like I said before, I'm kind of 8 out of 10. I like a lot of things that are going on with my life, but I have a lot of responsibilities, some of which I'd like to drop. I live in a city that has a really terrible climate, which I don't like. But, for now, I'm accepting those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Acceptance.
Big one, yeah.
Big one, really big one.
Yeah.
And we don't tend to do that really well.
We tend to say, I'm acceptable when.
Yeah.
And then it's always deferred, so we're always unacceptable.
When I'm gonna be happy when I get this new job. I'm gonna be acceptable to myself, others around me, when I get this body or when I do this.
Exactly.
But we don't. It's all here and now.
Because you get the body, you get the job. Someone's got a better body and a better job, so there's always going to be some. You're never gonna.
There's no end to it.
No. I mean, this is the basic Buddhist idea, isn't it? There will always be a lack. So it's like, okay, well, this is And I'm not also advocating so you just let things slide and you just don't pursue anything. It's just kind of being realistic about. You only have this moment all the time, so why are you deferring it until something happens where you think it's going to be okay? And then there'll be something else.
Yeah. What kind of dreams your clients come with, especially young ones?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to talk about that in a way because that's kind of quite precious material.
No, dreams as in...
Oh, dreams. Oh,
ambitions,
okay.
aspirations.
Dreams they're having it.
No, not the nighttime dreams.
Okay.
There is a field that exists that analyzes those and help you with that, but I'm talking about the aspirations.
Yeah. I'm not sure if they're particularly uniform. I think a lot of the ones... So I think dreams can be really dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they can keep us where we are. We dream and hope that something's going to come along later.
Yeah. So
I think action is much more important than dreams a lot of the time. I've seen this happen a lot. I've seen things go like this and the dream just carries on. And this has happened to me too. Before I wrote my book, I always dreamed about writing a book.
No, my question was mainly, what are their ambitions? What do they want to do? And how do they want to be? And what are they looking forward to?
Yeah. I don't know if there are any major themes.
No.
I think people frequently say what you would expect about being happy and being in a good relationship and having a good job.
Relationship, job,
Yeah. Wealth, health, relationship tends to be big things.
Big things, yeah.
But often when those kinds of dreams are first suggested, they tend to be the absorbed ones rather than the authentic ones.
Mm-hmm. Absorbed ones, you mean coming from the societies?
Yeah, this is what I should be doing.
Yeah.
or lots of people, the older people, then some will have achieved those dreams and still be unhappy, and they'll say, "What's going on? I've got the family and the car and the wife." And
so let's go to one of those clients where they have all those things in which society, not necessarily this is bad, but society might say you're successful, right? Wealth, health, and relationships. But at the same time, you may not be happy. What is that situation? Can you describe it?
I mean, it can be done to lots of different things. It really depends on the person. For some people, it's as simple as a capacity to accept that things are good. So they just, because they have a message about themselves that they're not good enough, that no matter how well things turn out or what great feedback they get, they will always feel terrible about it. So it's really about, you might not have to change anything.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not like you're off course and you have to do something unconventional or, it's just like...
But could that be coming from their decisions in the 20s? Do you have those examples?
It's a pile up. It's decision upon decision upon decision upon decision upon decision. I mean, that's if you've kind of landed in the wrong place, which I'm not sure if there is a wrong place, because I do think we can't do anything about the decisions that we previously made.
For sure.
And I don't want to put any more pressure on people in their 20s to feel like they have to get it right. Because you can only make the best decision you can make in any given moment, and then you have to let yourself off the hook. I'm doing the best I can right now, and I'm going to really think about it, make the best decision I can. You make that decision, you have to...
What is the best decision?
Based on all of those data points.
Your feelings and everything.
Your feelings, your thoughts, your advice, talking it through with people, being really honest about what you want, your capacity to take risk, your level of resilience should something fail, and then also accepting you can't predict any of that stuff anyway, so you might just find out you have to pick up the pieces and move on. I
don't know what to conclude from that particular segment, but I guess I would conclude that really listen to yourself when you're making decisions.
And maybe there's no conclusion, and maybe that's also part of the issue, because we want to tie things up.
We want to attach meaning to everything.
And that was right, and that was the right thing to do, and this is I don't think there is necessarily a right path. You find your way as you go. And try not to get too...
So what is important?
I guess not lying to yourself about stuff. You don't lie to yourself. You try and be really honest. I would say brutally honest, but I don't want people to be brutal with themselves either.
That doesn't make sense.
You be compassionately honest with yourself. If you're struggling, you be compassionate about your struggle rather than saying what's wrong with you, get your shit together, and you do the best you can and try not to get too hung up about it.
Let me just look at the questions.
I was going to say, how are we doing there? Because I think we've probably gone over half an hour.
This is 50 minutes.
Okay.
What are the 3 questions that people in their 20s should be asking themselves, according to you?
Wow, that's a good question. I should have thought about that beforehand. 3 questions that people in their 20s should be asking themselves. I need to pause it for a second while I think about it.
Take your time.
Okay, so maybe the first one would be, what do I really need?
And that could be anything. That could be an emotion, feeling, right? What do you mean by?
Well, I think if I'm saying what do I really... Okay, so the emotion and the feeling will help direct you to what you really need.
I see.
Yeah, so the need is from something outside of yourself.
What do I really need?
What do I really need? So, I mean, Yeah, so it might be that you notice, because of your feelings and your emotional state, that what you really need is not to be with these people. Yeah, like say you're with a bunch of people that are kind of pulling you in the wrong direction, in a sense. Like maybe that they used to pull you in the right sense, but it's kind of all changed direction. It's all gone a bit dark, and then you sit down for this moment and you think, what do I really need? I need to not be in this relationship, or I need to be in this relationship. Or
I also think it really helps when you go to a psychotherapist. It really helps you to understand what do you really need.
Yes.
Most of the times, especially 20s, confusing times when you don't know what do you want, what do you need.
Yeah.
You're just kind of going around, feeling up and down, and you don't really know what do you need or what do you want.
And you have lots of different needs too that also go in conflicting directions.
Of course.
So it's kind of like I need a relationship, but I need to be free. That's a lifelong one, I'm afraid. But
I want to be a musician. I need to be a musician, but I also want something steady income. That's something you need as well, for sure.
So that's like a really good example. So say that's what you need. You have an ideal about what you need. I need to be a musician, and then there's this reality principle. I'm not a musician yet, and I need to make money.
Yeah.
Did you just spend 7.5 hours on Netflix on Sunday?
There you go.
Yeah? Or were you practicing the guitar? Now, while I think a Netflix marathon every now and then is fine, again, I don't want to be fascistic about pursuing dreams.
But you can take your time a little bit here and then. You can really put your time into practicing it.
If you really want to be that musician, then if you need that, then you'll put the time in to do it, and you will work at McDonald's if you have to do it. People who really get there really, and I think. So I'm in two places about this, because I think that sweat and that intensity is really important.
Yeah.
But I was 25 until I started putting sweat and intensity into stuff like that. So I also think chill out. If you can chill out a bit.
Sometimes you need to chill out.
You need to chill out. You need to explore. You need to encounter so many different people so that when you start going down a path, it's the right one. I'm really glad. I was pre-med when I started as an undergrad. I was doing that doctor route thing. Now, I finished it pretty early because I knew it wasn't what I wanted. But it took me until I was 25 to think, this is what I want.
So the point is, what do you really need? And at the same time, question a little deeper, why do you need that? Or in the sense that what happens when you need this, and what happens to other people who needed this and who became musicians or not, or just looking around and actually seeing. You know what I mean? Like, if you really need to be a musician, then really go out and talk to a musician and see how it is to be a musician.
Expose yourself to that stuff.
Why do you need to be a musician? What is your fantasy about it?
Do you really need to be a musician?
Yeah, exactly. Do you really need to be a musician? Yeah.
So it's like about allowing yourself to be curious, because you can be very attached to your need and your dream. But I've always wanted to be a musician.
Yeah.
Maybe, but is that really,
What is the deeper need behind that?
Yeah.
You need recognition, you need some love and acceptance around your people, because that could be a fantasy if I be a musician and I'll be loved. That is something what I really need, but not being a musician.
But see, I would say we all need love and acceptance.
Yeah, for sure.
We all need authentic love and acceptance. And I think the best thing you can do in your 20s, just maybe seeing a therapist, is surround yourself with people who really want to see you for who you are, and you really want to see them for who they are, who you can sit and have a conversation with and be like, I don't know what the hell I need. If you're really lost, and they might say, I feel really lost too, or I always thought you're really good at this kind of thing. So, like real, honest relating. And I was really lucky. I had really good friends I could lean on when I was in my 20s. Still friends now. I didn't have to impress them.
Good friends.
Yeah.
Impression, there you go. Yeah.
And that Facebook either, lucky me.
That's lucky time. That's lucky time.
Yeah.
What will be the second question?
Gosh, it's really hard to think of 3 questions.
Yeah. Let me give you a direction, maybe. About relationships, what kind of question that you should be asking yourself about? Because relationship could be, I'm talking about romantic relationship. What should be the question that you should ask yourself?
Okay, maybe to riff on a theme, what does this relationship need? Yeah. What do we need?
Yeah.
Now, people do relationships.
What do I need as well?
Well,
individually.
Yeah. What do I need? What do you need? And what do we need?
Yeah.
And they're all going to be different answers. Yeah. And then how do we manage when there's conflict and you want something and I want something else? And I will tell you, like, the best skill in the world you can develop for the rest of your life is to be able to manage those conflicts of interest in a relationship, rather than shutting down and saying your way is wrong and my way is right, or I'm not going to do this anymore.
In the direction, because that's always going to happen.
So but at the same time, I would say I wouldn't also get hung up on meeting someone in my 20s who I expect to be with for the rest of my life either. Because that puts this enormous pressure on things too. Like, oh, if this isn't working out, and what's it going to be like when we're 40 together? And it's like, just slow down. You know, work it one step at a time. What do I need? Do they need? What do we need together? How can I support? I mean, I think the best relationship are two independent people who support each other to be independent people in relationship.
Exactly. That's where I think a lot of open relationships, the tendency to be in an open relationship comes from, where you want to be independent, and because in your 20s you're still exploring. You could be with a person based on what you are on that day, but later on when you grow up, you may not want to be with the same person. That happens a lot, and that's why we go through breakups and divorces and extramarital affairs as well.
I mean, monogamy is not necessarily the one way to do a relationship, and I think it can be harmful to a lot of people. Having said that, people do open relationships in really harmful ways too.
For sure.
So it's not the model.
What do you need?
I mean, because sometimes an open relationship is what he needs and not what she needs, or the other. It's usually that way, but sometimes it's the other way around too. So how you do an open relationship is crucial. You do have to have rules or guidelines. It needs to be discussed. It needs to be honest, because in an open relationship, the biggest crime is a lie. I mean, the biggest crime is a lie in lots of relationships. But it's like, if I'm going to trust you to make decisions out there, then I need to know what's going on between us. You know, so how you do an open relationship is really, really important. And if you need that, and the other person doesn't need that, then there's got to be a compromise. Something's got to shift.
What kind of fears people will experience in an open relationship, or transitioning from? First thing, why would somebody want to transition from monogamy to polygamy?
I mean,
could be
lots
the
of
symptoms or
reasons.
reasons.
I mean, so there's a difference between, say, an open relationship and a polyamorous relationship. So you might have an open relationship where you say, well, we love each other, but, you know, when I'm out of town, I might want to have sex with someone. Or there's this person at work I really fancy and I'd like to have sex with them, but there's no love involved. And people have all sorts of rules, like you can only have it once, you can't always...
All sorts of different kinds of boundaries and limits.
That's right. Which doesn't mean you can't prevent somebody from falling for somebody else. I mean, that's the risk. But the risk in being monogamous is that you fancy someone out there and then you feel sad, like you're sacrificing that you can't have it, or you have an affair. So none of these are... You don't get out of jail free.
There we go, There's no...
there's no free ride. Even in an fully open relationship, there's no free ride, because there will still be envy, there will still be jealousy. And when that comes up, you have to be respectful.
But does it help to be in an open relationship? If
you're of the personality for it, you really have to, you both have
what
to
you
be...
need,
if it's what you need and what they need. Polyamory is a bit different. That's when it's not just about sex anymore, but there's also love involved. So again, that gets very complex very quickly. You have 3 people involved. There's 3 people's needs to look after, and the needs of the 3 of you.
That's crazy.
And
it could be different in a gay relationship versus a heterosexual relationship. It could even get even more complex when it's heterosexual. And
I think that's true. I mean, gay men in particular have a much longer history of negotiating these kinds of relationships. And they do them in different ways, and they don't always do them in the best ways. But again, even for gay men, sometimes monogamy is the way to go if that's what suits you both. Or people open it for a while and they close it, or there's a crisis and it's open and they renegotiate something. It's about being honest.
So what do you really need, even in your relationships? That's a good question to ask. About career.
What, a question about career?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if it's a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I think with career, yeah, see, I probably would have found it easier to come up with 3 statements than 3 questions. But say more about me. Gosh, it is really tough because I think maybe
Make a
this is not a
statement, that's fine.
generalization.
Make a statement.
Okay. I think because your generation has experienced so much change,
Yeah.
and has a lot less, and it started a lot in my generation too, particularly around careers. Like it was my parents who had the career for life. That was not in my generation.
Yeah. So you're around 40 now, right? That
Yeah.
gives a sense of generation to our listeners.
Yeah, 43.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I was born in 1973.
Okay.
So I didn't really expect to have a career. I didn't expect to go work for an insurance company for the rest of my life and have a pension and that sort of thing.
I see.
But I think I did expect that it might be really hard, that I'm gonna have to work really hard. And I think, and again, I'm not dissing 20 somethings at all, but I think in relationships and in work, because of the kind of cultural environment lots of people are growing up in, when it gets hard, they want to pull out.
Yeah.
Or they feel like if it's hard, it must not be what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Like if is that going funny?
No, it's fine.
Okay. So I should be it should be easy if I'm on the right path, you know. And frankly, I think it's bullshit. Yeah. I think there is a feeling when something is going well in your life, and there is a feeling when something's not going well. Yeah. But if you want to run a marathon, and that's really what you want to be doing, you will feel that's what you want to be doing, but it's fucking hard work to train for a marathon. Yeah. You know, and the grit to see your way through the hard work bit is often confused, not just by people of your generation, but others. This must not be right for me. There's a very different quality of feeling to this isn't right for me, and this is too hard. Same in a relationship. Relationships falling apart, it's in breakdown. But maybe it's worth it to get through that hard period and work it out together rather than splitting up too soon. Yeah. Because meeting that kind of obstacle and overcoming it in work, physically, like the marathon, in relationships, like it's the best skill.
I think we have come to the end of the podcast.
Okay.
This was a lot of good information. I don't know if you follow the track, but it was a lot of valuable information right there. And how could people find more about you on the internet, your book, and your social media profiles?
Okay, so my book is called The Psychodynamics of Social Networking. Yeah. Connected Up Instantaneous Culture in the South. You can find it on Amazon or any quality bookseller. My Twitter is Dr. Aaron B, AARONB. I also have a Facebook page, Aaron Balick, and aaronbalick.com is my website.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Good luck to you.